I don't think a normal person does this or even considers it. I think 99% of coaches at that level of the sport, like you're already at a power conference school, I think it's a non-starter. The timing doesn't work, and you just say, man, I would love that job under different circumstances, but if I have to either take it or leave it right now, and taking it right now means walking away from a team that is not only a legitimate national championship contender, but is going to host a postseason game, a college football playoff game in the first round, which could reasonably double as the biggest sporting event in the history of the state of Mississippi. As sad as that might sound, it's possibly true. I don't think a normal person, most normal people could do that. I think they just say, I can't, I'm sorry. It's like the timing just does not work. Basketball coaches are presented with this type of stuff all the time. I can remember UCLA wanting to talk to Greg Marshall when Wichita State was on the way to going to the Final Four. And not only would he not consider, obviously he would never, can you imagine? It's you're going from the round of 32 to the Sweet 16, and in that week you change jobs. Like, that's not something that happens. Greg Marshall obviously wouldn't even consider changing jobs in the middle of the NCAA tournament. He wouldn't even talk to them, was my understanding. He said, you wait till my season is over, and then I'm happy to sit down with you. And if we're like telling the truth, he would have almost certainly been the next head coach at UCLA. But he said, I'm not talking to you till this season's over. And they said, we can't wait. And he said, well, I understand. And I hope you guys understand. And that was the end of that. I never blame another person for taking a better job. I would never want somebody to criticize me for taking better jobs throughout my career. That's all these men are mostly doing most times. This is different. Quitting on a team, quitting on a university that gave you a chance right in the middle of a playoff run, that's bad. That's bad. I don't think many people would do this. I'm still a little surprised that he did. I thought for a while, this is what, if you'd asked me last week, here's what I said. Yeah. He wants the LSU job. He would love to take the LSU job. I think he's going to beat Mississippi State, realize what he's going to have to walk away from to take the LSU job, and can't pull the trigger because you can't do that. You can't pull the trigger on that. I was just wrong because I underestimated just how single-minded he is. I don't want to use words like the other words people are using, including the word hoe. I'm not going to use that. But I don't think a normal person does this. I don't even think a normal person considers this. What do you make of it?
I find the entire story with Lane Kiffin to be one of the most interesting things in sports of the past few years, honestly. I'm coming from this as someone who follows a ton of the, business side of college athletics, but is not living or following into day-to-day just intensity that comes with the sport of college football. I'm going to plug our Cover 3 podcast. Those guys do an awesome job, and they've got a tremendously devoted fan base. And I know there is some cross listening between our show and their show. Please go find Bud, Chip, Danny Cannell. I think there's another guy on the show. I can't remember. But follow them. They do really, really great work. I'm going to shout out my guy Fornelli, fellow Bears fan. We're just reveling in the 9-3 season right now. Josh in our private chat says Tom Fornelli. Josh, it was a joke. I know that Fornelli's on the show.
Have you ever started doing that, like naming people, and then you really do get stuck? Oh, like I did it one time. I was like, yeah, and I'll be on set tomorrow with so and so, and it was like, oh no, I don't know who the other person is.
Yeah. But anyway, so my view on this is kind of being is at some remove, not just from living in SEC territory. It's just not living day by day with college football. So a couple things. One, when Brian Kelly left Notre Dame for LSU, that immediately had really weird vibes and reception to it. And Kelly never really outran the oddity of him taking that job. And ultimately, they didn't win enough, and that's why he got fired. But there was a thrum constantly connected to that he couldn't outpace. I'm getting similar pulsations off of this with Lane Kiffin. He's a really, really good coach. That LSU job is considered top 3, top 4 in the sport. I get all that. But sometimes the nature in which you take a job in college athletics almost seems to affect, separate to how good of a coach you are, how good you do with that particular job. I posted this earlier on Blue Sky today. I'm curious if you could go back and look at, the past 30 years in college football and college basketball at the high major level, when a coach is in a good spot, has overachieved, but then opts to take a chance on what's perceived to be a better job. I don't have the answer. I'm genuinely curious. It would take a bit of research to find this out. How often does that actually work out? Like, sometimes it does. And I'm not talking about like the no-brainer ones. I'm talking about the ones where you can make the case to go either way, or when you leave, it's under circumstances that might cause the fan base that you're leaving behind to not like you. Like right now, this year, we had this with Kevin Willard. And with everything that Kevin Willard went through, we thought that his was among the most publicly awkward, and I don't want to say inappropriate because I didn't think it was inappropriate. As a media member, I'll repeat now what I said then. I will take any coach on the record saying anything that gives us things to talk about and is a real insight into their honest mind as possible. And Willard did that. Lane did not do that here. Lane Kiffin has undergone what appears to be a pretty substantial image rehab over the past couple of years. And now, by nature of saying, I'm going to take this LSU job because on some level, I feel like I have a much better chance at having a better coaching career. I'm just going to toss all this Ole Miss stuff to the side. It feels borderline crass. And, I appreciate you saying what you said, GP, because I think sometimes on some of these issues, I might have a little bit more of an older, not sentimentality to it, but I don't know how to phrase what I want to say here, but he's got a team in the midst of its best season ever. And now he is walking away. I haven't checked the stuff that's transpired in the past hour when I know there's been a team meeting. How much of the staff he's taking away, how that actually should, would, or won't affect how Ole Miss gets seated in the CFP is a very real conversation now that Lane Kiffin has put upon that program and the committee. Are you trading that? Are you ever going to have a season that is ever as good or feels as high as the high as you are right now feeling with Ole Miss and what you have done for that fan base and that region? I have significant doubts. I know that 3 coaches have won a national championship at LSU in the past 20, 25 years, whatever it is, and it's such a high level job. I get all that. What are you trading off for? And is it ultimately truly is this worth it? Because Lane Kiffin is going his reputation was already mixed to begin with. And now for everyone, but the exception of one fan base, which may well turn on him in less than 3 years' time, is this actually worth the exchange? I'm super interested, super fascinated by it, but he does not come off looking well whatsoever. I heard people saying, I'll let you take it back here, GP. I heard people saying as recently as 4 or 5 days ago that Lane Kiffin was handling this about as well as you could ask him to. Well, if that was true, that has gone entirely out the window in the past 48 hours or so. And to leave those players, maybe they went in spite of him, I don't know, but you are abandoning ship on a season in which you are on the brink of doing something that was borderline unthinkable for that university. It's kind of gross, to be honest, but I don't fault him for taking the bigger job. I get all that, but I thought this was just badly mishandled. And yeah, good right or otherwise, right, wrong or otherwise, he remains a fascinating character, dating back to when this whole thing starts, essentially when he got the Raiders job at 31, and then he got very famously, very publicly fired by Al Davis. If you just track Lane Kiffin's career since then, it has been unlike anything else we have seen in American coaching legacies.
Pete Golding, the defensive coordinator, has been named the full-time permanent head coach at Ole Miss. So they're not doing an interim thing. This is in an attempt to try to keep players and coaching staff available for the playoff. You mentioned how the committee will view this. Hunter Yurachek is the Arkansas athletic director, and he was talking about this last week publicly and said that Ole Miss would not be punished by the committee, in his opinion, if Lane Kiffin were to leave before the playoff, which is fine, but wrong. I mean,
It's an impossible situation because on one hand, Parrish, my thought is this is not the players doing whatsoever, and they do not deserve to get punished. Like, this is entirely on Lane Kiffin. But on the other hand, if you are a committee and you are evaluating and you do not have your head coach anymore, let alone any other potential staff members, how can you not say that affects where they should stand in the seating? There's no right answer to it. No wrong answer, I guess. But the players don't deserve to have their seating knocked because Lane Kiffin said, see ya.
That's a valid argument that I'm open to. When I say wrong, what I mean is inconsistent. Because just 2 years ago, Florida State lost its quarterback. And
Correct.
they punched Florida State. Yes. And it's the same logic. Hey, Mike Norvell, those other Florida State players, they didn't do anything to deserve that. They were still undefeated. But the committee looked at it and said, man, you're not the same team. You don't have that guy. So how can you look at Florida State and say you're not the same team without your quarterback, so we must punish you? And then look at Ole Miss and not apply the exact same logic. Ole Miss is not the same team without Lane Kiffin. I mean, just that's if it didn't matter whether Lane Kiffin was there or not, you wouldn't have 3 schools trying to make him the highest paid coach in college football. All right. He matters. So I'm glad for Ole Miss's sake that they will not, at least according to Hunter Yurchik, be punished by the committee, but it's logically inconsistent to what they just did with Florida State a couple of years ago. Like you, I don't blame, and at the risk of repeating myself, Lane or anybody else for taking a bigger job. The truth is this could have been much cleaner if Ole Miss was just not as good. Like if instead of being 11-1, they were 8-4, 9 and instead of 11-1, they're 8-4, 9-3. Then you win the Egg Bowl. You tell your team you're off to LSU. What are you going to do? Miss Ole Miss playing in the Cotton Bowl or something? Like, who cares? That's pretty normal. Once you're eliminated from national championship contention, what football coaches have told us for a while is you're free to go. That's fine. But not while you're still in it. Not while you're still in it. Not while you still got a shot to win the whole thing, a realistic shot to win the whole thing. And I know that some people argue like there could be a group of 5 coach in this college football playoff who still technically has a chance to win the championship and is already going to be off to his new job. And I don't love that either.
I don't think that's happening though, right? I'm talking off the top of my dome, but aren't those like John Sumrall, right? If he goes to Florida and they have a chance, like I think they're still going to coach with their teams in the play. I could be wrong on that, but I thought there was a differentiation there, so I might be speaking out of line.
I don't know that it's understood yet exactly which coaches are going to be allowed to do what and blah 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 blah, and how long they're going to be able to do it. But I would even listen to that. Like, I think that's different than if you're Ole Miss coming out of the SEC with 11 wins. And you're Tulane coming out of the American, where it's awesome that you get that spot. But, buddy, we know you're not really winning the whole thing. At Ole Miss right now, there's reasons to believe they could really go win the whole thing. They will be seeded in a way that suggests they can go win the whole thing. And I really do believe that nothing else matters other than that. It doesn't matter. To me, it wouldn't matter what job I wanted, how much money. I can't walk away in the middle of this while it's still happening. I just can't, period. And I say the same thing, and I'm not trying to make it apples to apples because it's clearly not. But like I talk to my kids about this kind of stuff. Like, hey, you play for this baseball team. It's cool that baseball team wants you to come play for them, but our season is still going on. And you made a commitment and you told your teammates you'd be there. You told your coaches you'd be there, and you're going to see this thing through. And then whatever happens when it's over, happens when it's over. But you're going to see the thing through to the end, as long as you're still playing for a championship. There's a reason why it took till 2025 for a football coach to do this. Some of it is because the 12-team playoff complicates the schedule. You know, some of it is the way contracts are written. There's a lot of reasons we got to this point. It's not all Lane Kiffin. But I do not believe many, if any, other coaches would handle this situation the way Lane Kiffin has handled it. You have, and that's the other thing you mentioned earlier. Like, do you really want people? That would matter to me too. Mm-hmm. For the rest of your life, this is who you're going to be known as. Right now, every fan base in America thinks you're, whatever. You can use whatever term you want to use. And there's one that adores you right now, but they'll turn on you just as quick as they turn on everybody else. And here's the other thing, just sort of play it out. You go to LSU and now you can recruit better high school players. Awesome. Does it mean you're ever going to have a better team than the one you've got at Ole Miss right now? Not necessarily.
Exactly.
And even if you do, okay, you win a national championship at LSU. Yeah, Ed Orgeron did that. Whatever. You'll still be known as the guy who walked away from a championship contender at Ole Miss more than you're known as the guy who did great things at LSU. And oh, by the way, like better jobs don't always, as I just said, give you an opportunity to get better results. I mean, I guess they give you the opportunity, but they don't guarantee them. Why was Chris Mack amazing at Xavier and
Right. I thought about this. Yeah.
not nearly as amazing at Louisville? Why was Archie Miller amazing at Dayton, not nearly as amazing at Indiana? Shaka Smart kills it at VCU, not so much at Texas. I mean, you want me to keep going? This is sports. Men doing amazing things, coaches doing amazing things at good jobs. Ooh, but I got to take the next one. And It doesn't always work out. Sometimes it clearly does, but it doesn't always work out. There's just no way I would have done this. We can keep talking for another hour.
No, we can. Yeah.
I will always settle on this point. Even if it was my dream to coach at LSU, they made me the highest paid coach in America, and I knew factually I could get a better caliber of football player. All of that is trumped by, but it requires me to walk away from a championship contender, and I will have that regret for the rest of my life. I've already got enough regrets. I don't need to add another one. I'm going to stick it out at Ole Miss, and hey, life's not so bad. I'm living in Oxford making $13 million. And you know what? I might go actually win the national championship. I just couldn't do it. That's as simple as I can say.
He is trading off a real possibility of winning a national title this year for the hope that he will be able to do it at LSU with no guarantee of doing it. And then, as you said, even if he gets one, is one at LSU. I would argue you might need 4 at LSU to equal 1 at Ole Miss for national championships. You might need 6 at LSU, considering that place. He posted, Kiffin did, since we've been live, and we will wrap in just a second here, but I have to comment on this. He posted a statement here, and he said, I was hoping to complete a historic 6-season run with this year's team, led by leading Ole Miss through the playoffs, capitalizing on the team's incredible success and their commitment to finish strong, and investing everything into a playoff run with guardrails in place to protect the program in any areas of concern. My request to do so was denied by Keith Carter, despite the team also asking him to allow me to keep coaching them so they could better maintain their high-level performance, end quote. There's more stuff on that. Dude, you make the decision to do this. You're not coaching the team. You're in league, you're going to LSU, your priorities are already split at absolute best. You are asking for the biggest mess ever if and when Ole Miss were to lose in the playoff as a result of this. Lane Kiffin doesn't deserve to coach the team. Like, it is unfair to the players that they don't have their head coach, but you can't have Lane Kiffin running the program and also being the coach at LSU at the same time. It is untenable. Keith Carter, the AD, I don't know him at all. He made the absolute right call here, and careful what you wish for. This has weird. LSU is known for a place for voodoo in general. This has weird voodoo, juju, the whole thing. I don't like the terms under which he's taking the job. And if you told me he was a vast disappointment relative to what he did at Ole Miss, I would 100% believe you. The way this whole thing is starting just doesn't sit well with me at all. Some people say he's a great coach. Doesn't matter. You get 2-3 years in, you get the players, and they'll be just fine. Maybe, but I don't know. Different situation, but same vibes overall as Brian Kelly. You saw how it all ended, how weird it got at LSU with that. Lane Kiffin is opting into that. Maybe on some level, the two sides are meant for each other.
No scenario where I would allow him to continue coaching Ole Miss. In part because it would be wildly unpopular with my fan base, and I'm the one that's got to stick around with my fan base. Buddy, you're off and gone, but I got to deal. I'm stuck here in Oxford, all right, and I got to deal with the fans, and the fans hate your guts right now. And I would be next on the chopping block if I allowed you to continue. That's just one reason. The other reasons are I don't want you around my players, and then you're trying to take. I can't trust you anymore, man. All right. So thank you for your time, sir, but your time has been served. It's time to go. And frankly, like I don't like to make a habit of criticizing other people on television, but I thought that was a bad spot on game day on Saturday morning, where basically the people who spoke about it endorsed the idea of Lane continuing to coach Ole Miss even if he leaves for LSU, and nobody on that desk pushed back on it. And I think that's a byproduct of you've got too many people on that desk who have too close of a relationship to Lane Kiffin or represented by the same people. But that is where what we were watching on TV did not line up with reality at all. The people on TV were saying, I don't know why Ole Miss just doesn't let him keep coaching. You got to think about the big picture and what's best for Ole Miss. And the whole rest of the world is like, are you crazy? Absolutely not. Bro, you've already screwed this up. Get out of here. If whatever happens next, but it will happen without you. I don't know. I do know why the people on television said otherwise, but that was wrong, and they shouldn't have said that. You can sometimes, say less.
One that let's wrap, but I did actually meant to mention this 10 minutes ago, and in the midst of talking about it, I neglected to. This did happen in college basketball. It was 1989. Bill Frieder was the coach at Michigan. His AD, Bo Schembechler, found out he interviewed and intended to take the Arizona State job. This was in the midst of the NCAA tournament. Frieder was summarily fired, I guess, and then he goes off to Arizona State, to the point of what we've been talking about with all this stuff. Check out Frieder's career thereafter. Steve Fisher takes over at Michigan, winds up being the coach of the Fab Five, all that stuff. Michigan, makes a run there. And so that's the one parallel.
Still different.
That's the one. It is still different, but it is the one parallel where that got out a much very different media time, and they said, see ya. And that's the closest one in college hoops. It's not like Sean Miller leaving Xavier for Texas, although even that one had some quasi-similar vibes in terms of one program for another. But we don't get this a lot. A lot of it's the college football calendar that induces it. But that's not absolving Lane Kiffin for what he's doing. Not blaming the college football calendar for this. You could have chosen to stay on and try and make history at Ole Miss and told LSU, you want me, you're going to wait till the playoff run ends. If that does that make it easy for you because of recruiting and all that, fine, then get someone else. He opted not to do that. He opted in. Take a hike. He's out of Oxford.
The Bill Frieder thing, and then we'll for real get out of here. Because I went back and read about it just to remind myself, because I knew I'd be talking about this stuff. You're exactly right. He privately accepted agreed, wink and a nod. When this is over, I'm coming to Arizona State. I don't really I remember it, but I don't remember the details because I was like 12. But apparently there had been budget cuts with Bo Schembechler taking money and pushing it to football at the expense of basketball. They had gone from some charters to some commercials, that kind of stuff. And Bill was like, at Arizona State, they're recruiting me. They're giving me everything. So it was kind of like behind the scenes. Yeah, when this is over, I'm coming with you guys. And then it got out. And what I read was Bill didn't want to lie to anybody. He was like, I didn't want this to get out, but I'm also not going to be a liar. And he thought he could just tell his team and everybody, like, listen, I'm going to take this job when this is over, and here's why, and you'll understand. And when Michigan found out about it, they just said, no, you're not. You're gone now, and we'll play the rest of this without you. And famously, Bo Schembechler said, a Michigan man will coach Michigan. And then Steve Fisher wins the national championship, and Bill Frieder. That's a story forever. So the difference here is that by the time Lane accepted the LSU job, he knew, if you do this, you're done here. And he chose to do it anyway. Bill kind of accepted Arizona State under the idea of, I'm going to keep coaching through the end of the season. And then it went the way it went. So that's the difference. And if I were Keith Carter, I would quote tweet Lane Kiffin. And I would just quote, an Ole Miss man will coach Ole Miss. That's all you got to say. And your fans will rally around that. And that'll be, now this is an opportunity for Keith Carter to make himself more popular with the fan base. And the first step in doing that is telling Lane Kiffin to get out of Oxford. Anything short of that would have been a catastrophically wrong decision, if that's a phrase that even makes sense. Let's go.
Let's go. Thank you for indulging. It's such a huge story in our industry that I felt compelled to at least talk about it. We had plenty of time on a Sunday afternoon, so if you didn't mind the venture into college football stuff, this has obviously got our industry just a flame right now, because it's wild. So yeah, let's get out of here. I appreciate you, GP, and we'll talk again Wednesday morning to recap a huge Tuesday night.
It's a college football story, but it's a college athletic story.
Yes.
And again, the equivalent of this would kind of be somebody winning a round of 64 game, a round of 32 game, and then before coaching in the Sweet 16, taking another job at a conference rival, and then being told you're not coaching the rest of this NCAA tournament. That's like kind of what we're experiencing. It's a one-of-one story right now.